Freedom House was created in 1941 to persuade Americans to take on the Nazi threat. It was a time when many Americans wanted to stay isolated from the world. After World War II, we challenged communism abroad, and we joined the civil rights movement here at home. And today we're opposing dictators of all stripes. We want to make sure that people anywhere can enjoy their basic freedoms, the freedom to choose their government, to speak their mind, and to be part of their political system and be active in society. We believe that people should enjoy the same basic freedoms we do at home. They should have the right to choose their government, to say what they want publicly, to be active and part of civic organizations, whether we're talking about labor unions or business groups or church groups. And they should get a fair trial and be treated fairly by their judicial system. And these are basic freedoms that we think everyone, everywhere should enjoy. We are working to advance freedom around the world. We are tracking the progress and decline of freedom so that we can spotlight the biggest threats out there to freedom. We're also giving hands-on support to frontline activists so that they can do their job better, so that they can drive democratic change. 20 or 30 years ago, when human rights abuses were happening, often the news didn't get out for a long time, if it did at all. These days, we're able to train activists to take video footage, to record statements from witnesses, and to get news out of human rights abuses in real time and get that news out around the world. I think there are three key elements to our success. First of all, we're distinct among human rights groups in that we're not looking just at individual human rights abuses, but we're showing the larger picture. We're showing that these abuses follow a pattern which amount to undemocratic government. Second, we're giving hands-on direct support to frontline activists. And third, we're influencing policy. There was a case of Sergei Magnitsky, a Russian lawyer who exposed a huge corruption scandal of $230 million. And he was arrested, he died in custody, and the Russian officials who were responsible for that not only got off scot-free, some of them actually got promoted. And nothing was done to respond to that until a law passed in the U.S. to target those Russian officials. And that was a law that Freedom House pushed for. We do what we call the 3 A's: analysis, advocacy, and action. And this combination makes us unique. We don't just analyze the threats to freedom, we act on them. We're supporting frontline activists in their struggles for freedom. And we're helping activists in some of the toughest places, like Iran and Syria and Cuba. And because we're in regular contact with them, we have important insights about what's going on in those countries. And policymakers listen to what we have to say about those situations. Presidents, secretaries of state, members of Congress, and European leaders cite our reports when they talk about freedom in the world. Our ratings influence billions of dollars in U.S. foreign aid, and we're cited in the media several times each week. For our programs, the metrics differ from country to country according to each situation, but we know it makes a difference because dictators target us for what we do, and frontline activists come to us when they need assistance and advice. We get asked, what difference can you really make in a closed society, in a place that's cut off from the world, that's a complete police state? Well, you know what? We can make a difference. We actually get help to activists in 2/3 of the countries that we rate as not free. And keep in mind, democracy can happen anywhere. In the case of Tunisia, that was a country with the most brutal regime under former President Ben Ali. We gave it our lowest ratings for political rights, but that's where the Arab Spring began. And in early 2011, a popular uprising in Tunisia not only brought down Ben Ali's dictatorship, but inspired pro-democracy movements around the Middle East. We can't boast publicly about our support for frontline activists because that would put them in greater danger. But I can tell you we've helped over 1,000 human rights defenders in more than 75 countries. I can also tell you about our reports. In particular, our report on Internet freedom has really been groundbreaking. It's the most comprehensive analysis of the subject, and it's now the reference that governments use, technology companies, and free speech advocates, not only in the U.S., but around the world. Dictators criticize us all the time, and they harass us and sometimes target us. When we issue our reports, the government-run papers in Russia and elsewhere criticize the reports. Our staff in different countries have been harassed. Our communications are probably intercepted. And in some cases, for instance in Egypt, our staff have been put on trial after our office was raided and shut down, along with other international groups. But we've never stayed silent. We always speak up about the larger issues, and in the case of Egypt, said this really wasn't about us ultimately. It was about Egyptian pro-democracy groups and their efforts to promote change in their country. We're looking for additional funding for two purposes. The first is we want to create a program innovation fund so that we can keep up with the dictatorships as they get more and more sophisticated in their methods of repression, and we can keep continuing to support frontline activists. Second, we want to build up our in-house expertise to produce more in-depth reports on key countries such as China and Turkey, and on critical issues like the global crackdown on civil society. And that would also allow our experts to provide real-time analysis that can influence media coverage and policy debate on these countries and issues. Dictators are relentless in pushing back on freedom, and they're more and more sophisticated in controlling their societies. And that means that we have to innovate. We can't just use the same methods again and again. We need to figure out how to expose what the dictators are doing and how to get around that. The other part is that we need a constituency or a stronger constituency here at home. This is one of those things everyone kind of says, oh yeah, freedom, a good thing. But we need to sort of connect the dots that, okay, if you really believe in this, you need to be involved. You need to support this cause. We all understand the value of freedom, but we still need to do more to make that a reality. We need to push our government to stand up for human rights around the world. And we need the support of citizens so that we can give the assistance to frontline activists so that they can achieve the freedoms that we take for granted.